Hi guys, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the KV-85. Now I'm saying the Ace Tanker because this is the original KV-1S. If you've been playing World of Tanks for a while, you'll know that the KV-1S was originally a tier 6 tank that was incredibly overpowered, and I've covered it on the channel in the past. But around about patch 9.3, Wargaming basically removed the KV-1S. Now you could argue that, oh, did they change it to the KV-85 or did they remove it? And I will say they removed it because the KV-1S was introduced as a tier 5 tank, but it's nothing like the old KV-1S. And the KV-85 took the place of the KV-1S at tier 6, and this tank is nothing like the KV-1S either. So I would argue that the original KV-1S, the tank that was OP, was removed from the game, because both tanks that have been put into the game as replacements for it, even the one with the same name as the KV-1S, aren't the same tank. They behave differently, and they've got very, very different guns. So the KV-85, essentially, even though it carries all the stats and all the ace tankers and everything else from the previous KV-1S, is basically a new tank. And when I was doing a garage review in March, I mentioned the fact that while I was going through the garage review, I hadn't played very many games in the KV-85. Since it was introduced into the game, the week it was introduced into the game, or maybe the day it was introduced into the game, I played a couple of games in it just to see what had changed. I played one game with the 122mm that the KV-1S originally came with, and I played one game with the 100mm, and then I kind of forgot about this tank until I was doing the garage review, and I moved it back up into my primary slots in meaning to play this tank again, just to get an ace tanker in the KV-85, because, as I say, all the previous ace tankers were done when it was a KV-1S, and it's a completely different tank now. It's a lot slower than it used to be. The gun depression was hugely nerfed. It used to have 8 degrees of gun depression, now it has 3 degrees of gun depression, and the original 122mm gun, even though you could still get it for this tank, is much, much worse. It got an aim time nerf, it got an accuracy nerf, and it got a reload time, or a rate of fire nerf that basically makes it pretty impractical to use. The 100mm gun that I'm currently using on the tank is definitely much better than the 122mm, even though the 122mm is technically the final gun. So the 100mm has 170mm of penetration, that's good for a tier 6, and it has 250 alpha damage, which is good for a tier 6. The rate of fire is quite good on the tank as well, so basically the DPM on this tank with the 100mm is much better than it is when you're trying to use that, or than when you're trying to use the 122. So it's basically a different tank in my opinion, and as I say, I hadn't played too many games in it, said I put it back up into my primary tanks in order to get an ace tanker in it, because in my mind it's a completely different tank from the tank it used to be. So after making the garage review, I then basically got caught up and haven't played too many games in World of Tanks ever since then. But I did manage to sit down and play a game in the KV-85. I've played one game since that garage review, and this is it. So it's my third game in the KV-85 since it became the KV-85. And it's a game I haven't, or it's a tank really that I keep neglecting to play. My opinion of this tank is basically it's a grinder now. You grind through this tank and you move on, you sell it and move on to the IS at tier 7. I don't think this tank is worth keeping anymore. The only reason I still have it is again because I spent gold on the camo when it was a KV-1S. But anyway, we're moving up, and there's that 3 degrees of gun depression, so I have to pull back, get a shot at the T1 Heavy. But as you can see, I'm still struggling to learn the tank. I mean, the KV-1S used to have 8 degrees of gun depression, so it would have been able to shoot that M6 once or twice with absolutely no problems. But this is where the game really gets bad for me. This is another one of these games that's a very average game, and at the end of the game, I was very surprised it was an ace tanker. So that shot was a ghost shell. I thought that shot hit the KV-1S, but apparently it didn't. It disappeared in mid-air. And that one bounces, and again, no idea how it bounced on the side of a KV-1S, and he dies. So it's an encounter game on mines, and I've just come up to the cap circle because I've lost so many games on mines because the teams didn't contest the cap circle. And I'm a tier 6 in a tier 7 game. I mean, there are, or at least there were, 3 tier 7s on the enemy team. So I'm not top tier, and I'm not having a great game. I mean, I've only landed 1 shot, so it's a very, very strange ace tanker. This is one of the games where, at the end of it, when the score sheet showed up, I was kind of like, really? Really? Was that really an ace tanker? So, I mean, I'm putting shots in. I tracked the 88, and I couldn't pin him, so I go for the easier shot on the side. But, again, 170 millimeters, 88 was trolling me. I'm having a really bad game. So, blind shot on a T1 heavy camping spawn, no idea whether or not it went in. Shooting over the top of a Jagdpanzer IV. And again, that tank dies before it can get another shot in. But you can see the rate of fire is quite good, 6.4 seconds. And because I'm a tier 6 and there are tier 7s in the game, I suppose the one thing you can take from this game is the importance of shooting higher tier tanks. You're going to see what I mean by that in a moment, but yeah, I'm just contesting. I'm putting pressure on the cap. I'm hoping that the enemy team actually come and try and stop the cap. Because, as I say, I've only put 2 shots in. I've only done 500 damage in this game. So I really want something to shoot at. Maybe I'm playing really, really passively. This was my first game back. So after moving into my house, or re-moving into the house I was living in, this was played on the first night I was playing World of Tanks. So this game is quite a recent game, but I was very, very rusty. Hadn't played World of Tanks in weeks, so maybe I was playing way too passively. Go for a shot in the T-21, and we're almost capping, so I drive out a cap to reset cap. Damage and kills are more important than cap points, guys. But here we go, here we go. This is the ace tanker, right here. Matilda Black Prince, and he's a tier 7 tank. I'm a tier 6 tank, he's tier 7. Now, he does have decent gun depression, but here we go. We track him in place, and we do some damage. So what we're doing now is we're damaging a tier 7 tank. Now, he can still hit me, so I move forward a little bit, and I can just get shots into his tracks, get shots into his front plate here, and now I've moved into a position where he can't actually shoot me. He may have good gun depression, but not good enough. So I'm just putting damage into this Black Prince. I've already done 500 damage to him. Track him again. He can't return fire, and we're just doing more damage. So another shot in, and that takes me up to 700 damage on the Black Prince. And track him again, do a little bit more damage. I'll leave him on 8 health, and that bloody KV-2 steals the kill. So T-21 moving in, and I finally get my first kill. Now there's only 1 tank left on the enemy team. It's an ELC. And this is a very, very average, poor game. At least I felt it was poor. I'd missed a lot of shots, some of my shots disappeared. I've only got 1 kill, haven't done that much damage. And in my mind, if this was the old KV-1S, this was nowhere near an ace tanker. But I think it just goes to show you how badly nerfed the tank was. So, yep, kill the ELC on our own RT kills our T-150. So, yet another RT player taking a shot that was bloody stupid. But, as I say, yeah, if this was a game in the old KV-1S, there was no way this was going to be an ace tanker. But yet, it was, and it was very surprising because it was a very, very average game. So in addition to the ace, we also managed to pick up a Confederate and a high caliber. This is one of these games where I was kind of shocked by the result. It really felt like an average game when I was playing it, and it probably looked like a very average game to you guys watching, but obviously not a lot of people are playing the KV-85 anymore. Back in the days when it was the KV-1S, it was a lot more difficult to pick up an ace tanker, and 2,000 damage would not have done it for you. But 1114 XP apparently is good enough for an ace, 2,000 damage and 2 kills. Now, towards the end of that game, I was only on 500 damage, so it was basically just those shots on a higher tier Black Prince that netted me the ace, and it just shows how important it is when you are not top tier, when you're shooting higher tier tanks, a lot of people will sometimes, if they've got a choice between maybe an easy kill on the lower tier tank and a higher tier target, they'll go for the easy kill. But you gotta remember, shooting higher tier tanks will always get you more credits and more XP. So it's kind of a catch-22. Do you go for the kill and get the gun out of the game, or do you go for a shot on a more dangerous higher tier tank that's worth more credits and more XP to you? But yeah, that was just the Black Prince engagement was what probably got me the ace, and it really was a nothing game, really surprised, but 22 shots fired, I only managed to hit 16, and of those 16, only 9 penned. Really surprised, really surprised. The gun performed incredibly badly, and the 100mm is usually much better. But a lot of ghost shells, a lot of bounces, and I really don't understand why I wasn't able to pin some of the shots I fired. But maybe I just got really unlucky. But it was still an ace tanker. So I spotted 3, damaged 8, destroyed 2, did over almost 1,000 assistance damage, and did some base capture and base defense points as well. I earned 37,500 credits with premium account, so it's a pretty good moneymaker. If you don't have a premium tank, it's always good to find a good tier 5 or tier 6 tank you like playing and keep that, because you can earn credits in those games, especially or in those tanks at that tier, especially if you enjoy playing them and you play them well. 1671 XP on a ×2 left me on 3,342. So yeah, it's the first game I've played in the KV-85 since moving it back up to my primary tanks after doing the garage review. I moved it back down to my reserves because I don't really need to play it anymore, but I really don't think I would have kept this tank. I think if the KV-85 had originally been there when I was grinding up the Russian heavy lines, I think I probably would have just sold it and moved on to the IS. I don't think this tank is worth keeping anymore. It's just not the KV-1S anymore. The gun depression really hurts it. The top speed really hurts it. I'm not sure whether or not the ground resistance was changed on the tank, but it just doesn't feel as responsive as the old KV-1S did. But yeah, as I say, in the garage review, I said I'd play another game in this tank, see if I could pick up the ace tanker, and it happened in the first game. So there you go, very average game in the KV-85, in my opinion, but it was a nice surprise to pick up the ace tanker. And because I felt it was a very average ace tanker, I'm gonna do something for you guys, because you had to sit through it. I'm gonna give away another Steam key. So if you leave a comment on this video, it can be anything you want, just say anything you want, and basically you're going to be in with a chance of winning another Steam key. I'd love to be able to tell you what game it is, but I have no idea off the top of my head. I'm just recording these live, so I do have some Steam keys left over. I will give out another one, and just comment below if you want a chance to get in with or if you want to get in with a chance of winning a Steam key. So that's pretty much it. Good luck in the draw, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.